Another short video regarding why it can't be so when it comes to the kinetic energy theory. Why it just completely fails to be logical or reasonable or in any way sensible. So a metronome is another example of a elongated lever, and it swings with a weight on one end that makes a big arc, and another weight on another end makes a little arc, the heavier weight on the top. And it goes back and forth because it's the same amount of energy going both ways. Okay, this longer arc, lighter weight is the same energy as this weight. It's the same thing in gravity. It's going to keep oscillating back and forth and back and forth. And if you were to allow it to go into its swing, into its peak, where it's creating the peak velocity going up against gravity, was to break off at this point, where it's swung back down and has its peak velocity here, and it broke off, that the piece that broke off of here would have the same energy as the piece that broke off of here. That you can't sit there and make the argument that somehow this one has minus energy and this one has plus energy. Energy plus, or 2 times, or 4 times, or 10 times. If I just make this longer and longer, the argument is the kinetic energy formula off the table is saying that there could be 10 times as much energy. It doesn't make any sense. It wouldn't oscillate if it didn't consider the 2 sides here as having the same energy. It wouldn't be able to oscillate. It wouldn't do its tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock thing. And obviously what it's doing is just creating more time in terms of how long it takes, because you're sweeping a larger distance. And so it takes longer to get to the higher velocities. But that's all it's going to demonstrate, and there's no unevenness in the energy. So we'll move to example 2. Okay, the other example is the plane pendulum. I have talked about this before. You just change the distance, so 2x the distance, and you can double the mass on one side and it will oscillate. The pendulum will consider these two as being equal, nothing different about them, and it will move them commensurate to that equality, in the sense it will move twice the distance for this size as it moves from this side. And so that's twice the velocity, quite obviously. Same distance, different distances in the same amount of time. As this one swings anyway, this one swings twice as much, twice the velocity. Clearly, if this one lifts off, or this one lifts off, this one's going to lift off with 2x the velocity, okay? Not 4x, not any other kind of number. It can't gain more energy, and it's certainly not going to lose any energy. So you can understand, if I throw something in here, and I have this same size here, all right, the 2 are equal. This one will leave with the same energy this one came in with. The lever doesn't stop working. It doesn't create 1.4 the energy. All right, it returns the same amount of energy. It doesn't lose 30 or 40% of the energy. It oscillates perfectly well. And from the lever's perspective, it really can't tell the difference. It can't see that, oh, you're tricking me. You're putting a lighter weight further away. And so therefore, I'll oscillate this distance with only 1.4 the energy now. No, and there's absolutely no evidence there's any place for all these losses to go. You won't change how much weight. If you put the lever on a scale, the scale won't read more weight, because you've tricked it. And all of a sudden now you're going to expect this to leave with less than twice the velocity, and now it won't oscillate. It won't create the same amount of energy back down again. It's just it's not a tenable argument. You can't logically make these arguments. Now, the fact that you don't have physical evidence is clearly your fault. You've had hundreds of years to do these simple experiments, and how come they're not done? Well, they're not done because they don't prove your theory. They're complete and decisive evidence against your theory. That's why. All right, the third argument regards the gear work. So I have a gear on a shaft, going through here, and these 2 gears are locked together, fused, welded. The fact is, one turns exactly as the other one turns. So again, you have the same kind of scenario. You have a greater distance on the outside, and everybody kind of knows that has weak torque, and this little gear, the shorter gear, has very strong pressure it can apply. And that's all you've changed. It's the same energy. So if I turn it from this position and I turn it to this arc with the same force, and I put a 10-pound weight here and I put a 5-pound weight here, I'm going to get the same scenario. I'm going to move this one with the same pressure. I'm going to move this one twice the velocity, and I'm going to move this one 1/2 of that velocity, or one velocity. And it's going to be exactly the same amount of momentum or energy that I can apply to any system. I can't get twice the energy out of this gear that I got out of this gear. I can only change how the energy is delivered, whether it's delivered with a fast velocity or whether it's delivered with a slow, hard pressure. And that's all that changes. There's no change in the actual energy. And if you can kind of understand from the lever argument, I can't make extra energy. So when this leaves twice the velocity, it has to be more energy than went in. So if I'm dumping a 10-pound weight in and I'm, that's not the best place to put that. Anyway, and I'm shooting a half mass up, there's no way for you to lose the energy. It sees it exactly the same as if I had the 10 here. Come on. This is too simple. So, anyway. So, look, it's a theory that has no evidence. It has a terrible history. It makes absolutely no logical sense. It creates free energy in all of these simple devices. You don't have a single experiment you can point to where you're collecting this extra energy, so why keep pretending it exists? It's illogical.